The billionaire in his wheelchair never believed when the poor little girl approached him confidently and said, "I'm going to help you walk again." But what happened next shocked everyone in the room. The December rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Alexander Morgan's corner office on the 47th floor. At 26, he commanded a technology empire valued at $60 billion. But today seemed like the longest day of his life. His custom titanium wheelchair was perfectly positioned behind the mahogany desk, a throne that daily reminded him of what he had lost. "Mr. Morgan, the car is waiting downstairs," his assistant announced through the intercom. Alexander directed himself to the elevator, jaw clenched with familiar frustration. Another medical consultation, another specialist promising miracles they couldn't deliver. 3 years since the accident, and his legs remained as lifeless as marble. The children's hospital wasn't his destination, but fate has a way of redirecting our paths. A wrong turn by his driver led them to pass by the St. Clair orphanage, where Alexander spotted a small crowd gathered outside. Through the dark window, he saw her, a little girl with dark braids, no more than 7 years old, standing defiantly in front of 3 older boys. "Stop the car," Alexander commanded. Something about the scene drew him in. The girl wasn't backing down despite being outnumbered. Her small hands were clenched into fists, chin raised with remarkable courage. "Give it back, Jake," she shouted to the biggest of the boys, who held a worn teddy bear above his head. "Mr. Buttons is all I have left of my mom." Alexander found himself directing his wheelchair onto the sidewalk. "Is there a problem here?" The boys scattered like leaves in the wind, dropping the teddy bear. The little girl picked it up, clutching it to her chest, then turned to face Alexander with the most unusual eyes he had ever seen. A stunning violet shade that seemed to contain ancient wisdom. "Thank you, sir," she said, studying his wheelchair without the typical mixture of pity and curiosity he usually encountered. Instead, her gaze contained something that made his breath catch. Absolute certainty. "What's your name?" Alexander asked, intrigued by her lack of fear. "Lily Johnson." "And yours?" "Alexander Morgan." Lily approached closer, those violet eyes never leaving his face. "You're sad," she stated matter-of-factly, "but not for what people think you're sad about." Alexander's heart leaped. How could a child see through him so easily? "What do you mean?" "You're not sad because you can't walk," Lily continued, tilting her small head. "You're sad because you stopped believing in impossible things." Before Alexander could respond, Lily placed her little hand on the armrest of his wheelchair. The moment her skin touched the metal, he felt something he hadn't experienced in 3 years. A tingling sensation that seemed to travel from his fingertips straight to his spine. "I'm going to help you walk," she announced with the confidence of someone declaring the sun would rise tomorrow. Alexander almost laughed, but something in her eyes stopped him. "Lily, I've seen the best doctors in the world. They all said they don't know everything," she interrupted, tightening her grip on the wheelchair. "Some things can't be learned from books. Some things are just gifts." Sister Mary Peterson appeared at the door, her face flushed with concern. "Lily, come inside right now." "I'm sorry, sir, she usually doesn't." "It's fine," Alexander said, unable to take his eyes off the child. "Lily, how exactly do you plan to help me walk?" The little girl smiled, and for just a moment Alexander could have sworn her violet eyes flickered with an inner light. "The same way I helped Mrs. Wilson's cat when it got hit by a car last month. The same way I helped Sister Mary's roses grow again after the frost killed them." Sister Mary Peterson's face paled. "Lily, we've talked about this. You shouldn't tell people about your imagination." But Alexander caught the tremor in the nun's voice, the way her eyes moved nervously between him and the child. This wasn't imagination, and they both knew it. Lily moved closer to Alexander, lowering her voice to a whisper that only he could hear. "Meet me tomorrow at sunset by the old apple tree behind the orphanage." "And Alexander," she paused, her violet eyes piercing his soul, "bring your hope." As Sister Mary Peterson hurried Lily inside, Alexander remained motionless in his wheelchair, looking at his hands where the child had touched him. The tingling sensation hadn't disappeared. For the first time in 3 years, Alexander Morgan felt something he thought was forever lost. Alexander arrived at the orphanage 15 minutes before sunset, his heart pounding with a mixture of skepticism and desperate hope. He had spent the entire night researching Lily Johnson, but found nothing. No records, no history, as if she had simply appeared at St. Clair one day. His private investigators found nothing, which was impossible for a man with his resources. The old apple tree stood majestically behind the building, its ancient branches creating shadows that danced in the disappearing light. Lily was already there, sitting cross-legged on a small patchwork blanket, her teddy bear Mr. Buttons beside her. She wore the same worn yellow dress from yesterday, but somehow she seemed to glow in the twilight. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said, looking up with those remarkable violet eyes that seemed to contain depths far beyond her 7 years. "I almost didn't," Alexander admitted, positioning his wheelchair near her blanket. The custom titanium frame gleamed in the dying light, a prison he had learned to despise. "Lily, I need you to understand something. I've been paralyzed for 3 years. The doctors say my spinal cord was completely severed at the L1 vertebra. That means they don't know everything," Lily interrupted, standing up and brushing dirt from her worn dress with careful precision. "Doctors see what's broken. I see what wants to be whole again." She came closer, her small bare feet silent on the grass. "May I touch your legs, Alexander?" Alexander's throat tightened with familiar pain. "You won't feel anything." "I haven't felt anything for 3 years, 4 months and 16 days. Lily's expression softened with understanding that belonged on a much older face. "Sometimes the best healing begins in places we can't feel yet." She knelt beside his wheelchair with the solemnity of a priest approaching an altar, then gently placed her small hands on his knees. The moment her palms made contact with his legs, Alexander gasped as if he'd been struck by lightning. The same tingling sensation from yesterday coursed through his body, but stronger this time, like hot electricity flowing through his spine and radiating outward. "Do you feel that?" Lily whispered, her eyes beginning to glow with that strange inner light, violet fire dancing in their depths. I feel," Alexander breathed, looking at his legs in amazement. For the first time since the accident, he could actually feel his lower body. It was weak, like a distant radio signal, but it was there. "How is this possible? What are you?" Lily's face turned serious, ancient wisdom replacing childish innocence. "My mom told me before she died that some people are born to fix what's broken in the world. We're called healers, but every gift has rules, Alexander, sacred rules that can't be broken." "What kind of rules?" "The gift flows from the heart, not the mind. I can only heal someone my soul recognizes as needing to be whole." And she paused, her small forehead furrowing with worry. "Breaking these rules comes with a price that's worse than remaining broken." Before Lily could explain more, Sister Mary Peterson's voice echoed from the building like a church bell calling the faithful. "Lily, dinner time. Don't make the other children wait." Lily quickly withdrew her hands, and the sensation vanished instantly, leaving Alexander feeling more disabled than he had in years. He wanted to grab her hands, beg her to continue, but something in her expression, a mixture of hope and terror, stopped him. "Tomorrow," she promised, backing toward the orphanage. "But Alexander, you have to promise me something too, something really important." "Anything." Lily's violet eyes fixed on his with frightening intensity. "When I'm helping you, when the healing really starts, never ask me to stop. No matter what you see, no matter how scared you get, no matter what happens to me, promise." Looking into those ancient violet eyes, Alexander felt a chill run down his spine like ice water. But the memory of feeling his legs again, of hope rekindled after 3 years of darkness, was too powerful to resist. "I promise." As Lily ran toward the orphanage, her yellow dress fluttering like butterfly wings, Alexander couldn't shake the feeling that he had just made a deal with forces he didn't understand. But for the first time since his accident, he felt truly alive, and that was worth any price. The next evening, Alexander arrived 30 minutes early, his mind buzzing with questions that had kept him awake all night. He had spent the day researching inexplicable cures, miraculous recoveries, anything that might explain what Lily could do. What he found in obscure medical journals and religious texts both fascinated and terrified him. Stories of people with extraordinary gifts that defied modern science. Lily was waiting by the apple tree again, but this time she wasn't alone. A small orange cat was purring contentedly in her lap, its left rear paw moving perfectly despite clear evidence of recent trauma. Dried blood on its fur, but no wound. "This is Marmalade," Lily said, scratching behind the cat's ears with gentle affection. "Sister Mary found him this morning with his paw, all twisted and broken from being hit by a car on Flower Street. She was going to take him to the vet, but—" Lily's voice trailed off significantly. Alexander looked at the cat, which leapt gracefully from Lily's lap and scampered off on 4 perfectly healthy paws, chasing a leaf in the evening breeze. "Lily, how long have you been able to do this?" "Since my mum died 2 years ago," Lily said quietly, her violet eyes becoming distant with memory. "The night she passed away in the hospital, I felt something change inside me, like a door opening in my heart that had been locked my whole life. The first time it happened, I was so sad about losing her that I went to her garden and cried over her roses. They had been dead for a week because of an early frost, all brown and withered. What happened? When my tears touched them, they bloomed again, more beautiful than they had ever been." Lily's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "That's when I knew Mom had given me something special before she left." Alexander moved closer with his wheelchair, drawn by the raw emotion in her voice. "What happened to your parents, Lily?" Lily's violet eyes clouded like a forming storm. "Car accident on Highway 40 on the outskirts of town. A drunk driver crossed the center line at 110 miles per hour. Her small hands clenched into fists. Dad died instantly, but Mom lived long enough to tell me about the gift that runs in our family. She said it only comes to the women, and only when we're needed most. Why didn't you save her?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Lily's face crumpled with a pain no 7-year-old should know. "Because that's the most important rule of all," she whispered, tears threatening to spill. "I can heal anything, anyone, except the person I love most in the entire world. It's like the universe won't let us use the gift selfishly, won't let us save the people we can't bear to lose." The weight of this revelation settled between them like a tombstone. Alexander reached out and took her small hand in his, feeling the warmth of her power humming just below her skin. "I'm sorry, Lily. That must be incredibly lonely." "It is," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Until yesterday, when I saw you sitting there in your wheelchair, looking so lost. For the first time since Mom died, I felt like maybe I wasn't alone anymore, like maybe I'd found the person I was meant to help." Lily stood up and moved behind Alexander's wheelchair with purpose. "Are you ready?" Alexander nodded, and Lily placed both hands on his shoulders. The tingling sensation returned immediately, but this time it was accompanied by something more. Images flashing through his mind, like scenes from a movie he had never watched, but somehow remembered. He saw Lily as a baby, glowing with that same inner light as her mother sang lullabies. Her mother, a beautiful woman with gentle eyes, teaching a 5-year-old Lily to control the power, to channel it safely. And something darker, figures in the shadows watching from a distance, always waiting, always hunting. "Lily!" Alexander gasped, his vision clearing. "Who else knows about your gift?" But when he looked back, Lily had collapsed on the ground, her face as pale as moonlight, her small body trembling. "Lily!" Alexander struggled to get out of his wheelchair, his useless legs refusing to cooperate. "Lily, wake up!" Her violet eyes flickered weakly open, and she whispered 4 words that turned Alexander's blood to ice. "They're coming for me." Alexander spent the night pacing, or rather moving frantically in his wheelchair around his penthouse apartment, Lily's warning echoing in his mind like a death knell. He had called in favors, activated old military contacts, and by dawn had assembled a security profile that chilled his blood. By morning, he had made a decision that would change everything. "Mr. Morgan, are you sure about this?" asked Marcus Reynolds, Alexander's head of security and former elite military. The muscular man stood at perfect attention in Alexander's office, his marked hands studying the dossier Alexander had handed him with professional precision. "I want 24-hour protection at St. Clair Orphanage, specifically focusing on a 7-year-old child named Lily Johnson. Full tactical team, rotations every 8 hours, and Marcus..." Alexander's voice carried the steel of a man accustomed to being obeyed. "Be discreet, but be ready for anything. Sir, if I may ask, what is your interest in this particular child?" Alexander had prepared for this question all night. But how do you explain the impossible to a man trained in hard realities? "Let's just say she's become vitally important to me, Marcus. More important than you can imagine." What Alexander couldn't tell Marcus was what had happened after Lily collapsed. As he held her unconscious little body, desperately waiting for Sister Mary Peterson to arrive with help, Lily had whispered details about his accident that she couldn't know. The exact time, 11:47 p.m. Weather conditions, light rain, 43 degrees Fahrenheit. Even the song that was playing on the car radio, Imagine by John Lennon. But most disturbing was what she said about the other car, the one that had swerved into his lane and disappeared into the night. According to Lily's feverish whispers, it hadn't been an accident. That afternoon, Alexander arrived at the orphanage to find Lily waiting by her apple tree, but something was fundamentally different. Her usually cheerful demeanor had been replaced by a nervous energy that made his teeth ache with tension. "They were here last night," she said without preamble, her violet eyes constantly darting to the orphanage windows. "Who was here, Lily?" "The same people who've been watching our family for generations." Lily's small hands twisted anxiously. "Mom called them collectors. They collect people like me, people with gifts that can't be explained by science or religion." Alexander felt his blood pressure spike dangerously. "Collect for what purpose? To use us? To control us? To turn our gifts into weapons?" Lily's voice fell to barely above a whisper. "Mom said they've been doing this for hundreds of years, taking gifted children from their families and turning them into things that aren't fully human anymore. Why didn't you tell me this before?" Lily's eyes filled with tears of frustration. "Because I was hoping they wouldn't find me here. Mom hid me so well for 7 years, teaching me to suppress my gift, never to use it where someone might see. But healing you is making my power grow stronger every day, brighter. It's like a beacon now, calling to anyone who knows how to look. So if we keep doing this, they'll definitely come." Lily nodded miserably. "But if we stop," Alexander gently gripped her wrists, "then we stop. Your safety is more important than my legs." "No." Lily's eyes glowed with that strange light, brighter than he had ever seen it. "You don't understand, Alexander. You aren't just some random person I decided to help. The gift doesn't work that way. It never has." "What do you mean?" Lily's voice fell to barely above a whisper, heavy with terrible knowledge. "I can only heal someone I'm spiritually connected to. Someone who's part of my destiny, written in the stars before either of us was born. Mum told me I'd know when I found them, that my heart would recognize them instantly." Alexander's heart beat like a war drum. "You're saying we're connected somehow?" "I'm saying your accident 3 years ago wasn't random, and neither was our meeting yesterday. The same dark forces that sent the collectors after my family are exactly the same ones that put you in that wheelchair." Before Alexander could process this earth-shattering revelation, Marcus's voice crackled through his earpiece with military urgency. "Sir, we have movement. 3 black vehicles approaching the orphanage from different directions. Precision military formation, government plates." Alexander looked at Lily, whose face had paled mortally with recognition. "It's too late," she whispered, clutching Mr. Buttons to her chest. "They're here." Lily, listen to me very carefully," Alexander said, his military strategy training kicking in despite the supernatural circumstances swirling around them. "How fast can you run?" "Fast enough," Lily answered, clutching Mr. Buttons to her chest with white knuckles, her violet eyes already scanning escape routes with the instinct of a hunted animal. Marcus's voice crackled through the earpiece again with growing urgency. "Sir, I count 12 operatives, possibly more. Black SUVs, government plates, tactical gear. They're surrounding the building in a coordinated pattern. These people are professionals." Alexander's mind raced through possibilities and strategies. The orphanage had 43 children inside, all innocent, all in potential mortal danger because of Lily's presence. "We need to get them away from here immediately." "Alexander, no!" Lily protested, her small face etched with terror. "If they catch me, they'll hurt you to make me cooperate." "That's what Mom said they do. They find the people we care about and use them as leverage against us. Then we make sure they don't catch either of us." Alexander pulled out his phone and dialed a number he had memorized years ago, but never thought he would need to use. "This is Alexander Morgan. I need immediate extraction from St. Clair Orphanage on Maple Street. Authorization code Ghost 77 Alpha, Priority 1. Lily's eyes widened with shock. "Who are you really, Alexander?" "Someone with resources you're about to discover." Alexander ended the call and turned to Lily, his expression grim but determined. "My helicopter will be here in 3 minutes, but we need to get to the roof, and we need to move now. I can't leave the other children. What if they hurt them? Sister Mary will protect them. These people want you specifically, not them." Alexander's voice softened with genuine concern. "Lily, I need you to trust me completely." The sound of car doors slamming echoed from the front of the building like gunshots in the night air. Lily closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them, they glowed brighter than Alexander had ever seen, like violet stars burning in the darkness. "I can feel them," she whispered, her small body trembling. "Their minds are cold, empty, as if they've had their souls surgically removed and replaced with ice. Can your gift work on them? Can you heal whatever they've done to themselves?" Lily shook her head frantically. "Mom said the collectors do terrible things to themselves to become immune to people like us. They sacrifice their humanity, their ability to feel pain or compassion, all to hunt us more effectively." The distant hum of helicopter rotors filled the air, growing louder with each second. Alexander gripped Lily's hand with fierce protection. "Time to go!" They raced toward the service entrance of the orphanage, Lily's small legs pumping desperately to keep up with Alexander's motorized wheelchair. Behind them, they could hear shouts in clipped professional tones and the sound of doors being systematically forced. There, Marcus appeared in the service doorway like an avenging angel, his tactical gear making him look like something from a war movie. "Roof access is this way. Move, move, move." As they climbed the narrow stairs, Marcus carrying Lily, while Alexander's wheelchair was equipped with military-grade stair-climbing treads, Lily suddenly gripped Alexander's arm with desperate force. "Wait!" she gasped, her face losing all color. "Something is terribly wrong." "What do you mean?" Lily's violet eyes widened with terror, deeper than anything Alexander had seen from her. "They're not just here for me. They know exactly what I've been doing with you. Every detail of our healing sessions." Alexander's blood chilled to Arctic temperatures. "How could they know that?" "Because," Lily whispered, her voice breaking with betrayal and fear, "one of them has the same gift I do, another healer, and she's been watching us from the beginning, reading every thought, feeling every emotion." The helicopter appeared over the rooftop, just as an explosion rocked the building below them, shattering windows and sending debris flying. But as Alexander lifted Lily toward the aircraft, he spotted something that made his heart stop completely. Standing in the courtyard below, surrounded by the black-clad operatives like a queen among her soldiers, was a woman with silver hair and eyes that glowed exactly the same violet as Lily's, and she was smiling with the cold satisfaction of a predator that had finally cornered its prey. The helicopter lifted off, just as the violet-eyed woman raised her hand toward them with theatrical precision. Alexander felt Lily stiffen in his arms as if she'd been struck by lightning, her small body convulsing with pain. "Lily, what's happening to you?" She's in my head." Lily gasped, her hands clutching her temples as if trying to hold her skull together. She's trying to take control of my gift to use it against me. Through the helicopter window, Alexander watched the silver-haired woman's smile widen with malicious pleasure. Even at this distance, he could feel her power stretching toward them like icy tentacles of pure malevolence, trying to wrap around Lily's mind. "Who is she, Lily? How does she have the same abilities as you?" Lily's face was a mask of soul-crushing pain and recognition. "My aunt, my mother's older sister, Rebecca Johnson." The revelation hit Alexander like a physical blow to the chest. "Your aunt is leading the collectors. She's not just leading," Lily whispered, tears streaming down her face as she fought the mental invasion. "She was the first, the prototype for everything they've become." Alexander's pilot's voice crackled over the intercom with barely controlled panic. "Mr. Morgan, we have pursuit. 2 military helicopters approaching rapidly from the east. They're armed, and they're not backing down." Alexander looked back to see Rebecca Johnson climbing into one of the aircraft below with fluid, inhuman grace. Even at this distance, he could see her violet eyes blazing with stolen power, like twin suns burning with supernatural fire. "Lily, can she really steal your gift permanently? If she touches me, skin to skin, yes. She's been perfecting the technique for 20 years. Lily's small hand gripped Alexander's arm with surprising strength. "But that's not the worst part of what she can do." "What do you mean? If she takes my gift while I'm still connected to you through the healing process?" Lily's voice broke with terror. "What happens to me? The healing process doesn't just stop, it completely reverses. Instead of walking again, your body will consume itself trying to undo what we started. You'll die in agony in minutes." Alexander felt the world tilt dangerously around him as everything suddenly made horrible, perfect sense. His random accident on a deserted road, his casual meeting at the orphanage, Rebecca's perfectly timed arrival just when Lily's power had grown strong enough to be worth the risk of stealing. He had been bait in an elaborate trap that had been 20 years in the making. "She caused my accident, didn't she?" Lily nodded miserably, her violet eyes overflowing with guilt and sadness. "Rebecca has been tracking our family bloodline for decades, waiting for the next healer to manifest. When Mom died and passed the gift to me, Rebecca knew I would eventually need someone to practice on, someone who would make my power grow strong enough to be worth the risk of stealing. So she arranged for me to need healing. She researched you for months, your military background, your company, your driving routes. She knew exactly when and where to stage the accident to make it look random." Lily's small body shook with sobs. "I'm sorry, Alexander. I should have told you everything from the start. But I thought maybe this time would be different. I thought maybe we could beat her." Alexander looked at this incredibly brave little girl who had risked everything to give him hope and felt something fundamental shift inside his chest. Not the tingling of her healing power, but something deeper. The protective instinct of a man who had finally found something worth fighting for, worth dying for. "Lily, look at me." She raised her tear-filled violet eyes to his face. "We will beat her. But I need to know everything about her abilities. What other powers has she stolen? What are her weaknesses? She can steal any supernatural ability, but only through direct skin-to-skin contact that lasts at least 30 seconds. And each gift she's stolen makes her less human, more like a living weapon. Mom said that's her greatest weakness. She's so full of other people's power that she's forgotten how to think like a person, how to feel genuine emotions." The helicopter shuddered violently as something struck its tail rotor. Behind them, Rebecca's aircraft was gaining ground with terrifying speed, and Alexander could see her monster-transformed aunt standing in the open door, her hands glowing with unnatural energy that hurt to look at directly. Alexander's pilot's voice was tense with fear. "Sir, they're not trying to shoot us down. They're using some kind of electromagnetic pulse to force us to land. I'm losing control of the navigation systems." Alexander made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life, however long that might be. "Lily, I need you to do something, and I need you to trust me completely. What? I need you to cut our connection immediately. Stop the healing process entirely. If Rebecca can't steal your gift through me, then she can't use me as leverage against you. Lily's face went white as fresh snow. Alexander, no. If I stop the healing now, you'll never walk again. The window for recovery will close forever. There are no second chances with this kind of injury. I'd rather spend the rest of my life in this wheelchair than see Rebecca hurt you. But you don't understand, Lily whispered, her violet eyes filling with desperate, impossible love. You aren't just someone I chose to heal. You're the person I was destined to save, the reason the gift came to me in the first place. If I fail now, if Rebecca takes my power, she'll become too powerful for anyone to stop. She'll hunt every gifted child in the world. Alexander looked into Lily's ancient eyes and saw not just a 7-year-old girl, but the last hope for countless other children like her, scattered across the globe and waiting for someone to protect them. Then we don't let her win. But as Rebecca's helicopter pulled alongside theirs, so close that Alexander could see triumph glittering in her stolen violet eyes, he realized that some battles can't be won through courage alone. Sometimes you need a miracle. And miracles, he was quickly learning, always demand a price that breaks your heart to pay. The helicopter rocked violently as Rebecca's electromagnetic pulse tore through its systems like invisible claws. Sparks exploded from the control panel as Alexander's pilot desperately fought to maintain altitude. "We're going down," the pilot shouted over the screaming alarms. "Brace for emergency landing." Alexander wrapped his arms protectively around Lily as they plummeted toward an abandoned industrial complex on the outskirts of the city. The helicopter hit the ground hard, skidding across concrete before smashing against the wall of a rusted warehouse. Through the cracked windshield, Alexander watched Rebecca's aircraft land with predatory grace 50 yards away. She stepped out, surrounded by her black-clad operatives, her silver hair whipping in the downdraft from the rotors like a war flag. "Alexander," Lily whispered, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "She's going to try to make a deal with you." "What kind of deal?" "Your legs for my life. She'll offer to heal you if you help her capture me." Alexander's jaw hardened with anger. "That's not going to happen." Marcus emerged from the wreckage, his tactical vest torn, but his weapon ready. "Sir, we need to move. The building behind us has multiple exit routes." But as they staggered from the helicopter, Rebecca's voice echoed across the concrete yard with supernatural amplification. "Alexander Morgan, there's no need for this to end in bloodshed." Alexander turned his wheelchair to face her, placing himself between Lily and the approaching collectors. "What do you want, Rebecca?" "I want to give you something the doctors never could." Rebecca approached, her violet eyes blazing with stolen power. "I want to give you the ability to run, dance, feel the earth beneath your feet again." "At what cost?" Rebecca's smile was colder than Arctic wind. "The child comes with me willingly, and in exchange, I'll not only heal your spine, I'll make you stronger than you ever dreamed possible." Lily gripped Alexander's arm with desperate force. "Don't listen to her. The power she's offering isn't healing, it's corruption. She doesn't give gifts, she makes slaves." "Is that true, Rebecca?" Alexander shouted. Rebecca laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Ask yourself this, Alexander. In 3 years of paralysis, how many people truly cared about your suffering? How many visited your hospital room? How many looked at you with anything but pity?" Alexander's chest tightened with the truth of her words. "But this child," Rebecca continued, "she saw you as worthy of a miracle. Don't you want to know why? Don't you want to understand what makes you so special that the universe itself bent its rules for you?" "Alexander," Lily whispered urgently, "whatever she's about to tell you, remember that she lies as easily as she breathes." Rebecca heard her and smiled wider. "Tell him about the prophecy, little niece. Tell him why you're really here." Lily's face paled mortally. "There is no prophecy." "Isn't there?" Rebecca's eyes glittered with malicious triumph. "Tell him about the dreams you've had since you were 5. Dreams of a man in a wheelchair who would either save our family line or destroy it forever." Alexander felt the world move beneath him. Lily, is that true? I didn't want you to feel like you were being used, Lily stammered, tears streaming down her face. But yes, I've dreamed of you for years. Before Lily could fully answer, Rebecca raised her hands, and Alexander felt an invisible force lifting him from his wheelchair. For one glorious moment, he was standing on his own legs. Then Rebecca let him fall. That's just a sample, she said, as Alexander hit the concrete hard. Heal him properly, Lily, and I'll let you both walk away. Refuse, and I'll make sure Alexander Morgan learns exactly what it means to suffer. Lily's violet eyes blazed with fury beyond her years. You want a demonstration of power, Aunt Rebecca? She placed her hands on Alexander's chest, and suddenly all the lights in the abandoned complex exploded in showers of sparks. When Alexander's vision cleared, Lily was glowing like a small star, and Rebecca's confident smile had completely vanished. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Lily said, her voice echoing with supernatural authority, and neither do I. Rebecca's operatives raised their weapons, but she lifted a hand to stop them. Her violet eyes were fixed on Lily with renewed respect and barely disguised hunger. Magnificent, Rebecca breathed. You're even stronger than your mother was at this age. Don't you dare speak about my mother, Lily growled, her small body still radiating that impossible light. Your mother was weak, said Rebecca, circling them like a predator. She could have ruled the world with her gift, but instead she chose to hide, healing stray cats and dying flowers. What a waste! Alexander struggled back into his wheelchair, his mind reeling with what he had witnessed. Lily, how did you do that? I don't know, Lily whispered, the glow fading as exhaustion took over. This has never happened before. Rebecca laughed coldly. Of course not. Your power is tied to your emotional connection with Alexander. The stronger your bond becomes, the more your abilities evolve. What does that mean? Alexander demanded. It means, said Rebecca, her eyes glinting with malice, that you aren't just a random patient, Alexander Morgan. You're a catalyst, a human amplifier designed to unlock powers that shouldn't exist. That's impossible, is it? Tell me, Alexander, what do you remember of your childhood? Alexander frowned. What does that have to do with anything? Do me a favor. What's your earliest memory? I remember being in the hospital when I was 7. Some kind of accident. What kind of accident? Alexander's forehead wrinkled as he tried to recall details that seemed shrouded in fog. I don't. The doctor said I fell down the stairs. But you remember differently, Rebecca finished. You remember floating. You remember things moving without being touched. You remember being different. Alexander's blood froze. How do you know that? Because your parents called us, Rebecca revealed with cruel satisfaction. Your biological parents, before they gave you up for adoption. They were terrified of what their son could do. You're lying. Rebecca pulled out an old photograph and tossed it at Alexander's feet. It showed a small boy with familiar eyes floating 3 feet above the ground while toys orbited around him like planets around a sun. You were one of us, Alexander, until we fixed you. You took his gift away, Lily gasped. We suppressed it, Rebecca corrected. We buried it so deep he would never access it again, or at least that's what we thought until Lily began healing you. The accident 3 years ago, Alexander said, the pieces falling into place. It wasn't just to incapacitate me, it was to reactivate what you did to me as a child. Brilliant. Yes, trauma has a way of cracking even our strongest mental barriers. We needed you to be desperate enough to accept help from someone with Lily's particular abilities. Lily's violet eyes blazed with understanding. The healing process isn't just fixing your spine. It's undoing whatever they did to suppress your original gift. And when you two are at full power, said Rebecca, coming closer, you'll be unstoppable together. The perfect weapon to reshape this world. We will never work for you, Alexander said firmly. Who said anything about choice? Rebecca smiled as her operatives moved to surround them. Lily, heal him completely now. Or I'll show you exactly what happened to the last gifted child who defied me. She gestured, and one of her operatives stepped forward, removing his helmet. Alexander's stomach turned. The man's eyes were completely white, his face devoid of any human expression. "This is David Johnson," Rebecca said casually. "Lily's cousin. He had the gift of seeing the future until he tried to run from me 5 years ago." Lily screamed, a sound of pure anguish that shattered every remaining window in the complex. "Choose quickly, niece," said Rebecca over the echo. "Heal Alexander and unlock both your true potentials, or watch me turn him into another empty shell." But as Lily raised her hands toward Alexander, something happened that neither Rebecca nor her operatives expected. Alexander's wheelchair began to levitate, and his eyes began to glow with the same violet fire. "I choose option 3, said Alexander, his voice resonating with renewed power. "We fight." The abandoned warehouse exploded into chaos as Alexander's suppressed abilities burst back to life. Metal beams groaned and twisted as his telekinetic power swept through the structure like an invisible hurricane. Rebecca's operatives opened fire, but their bullets stopped in midair, hanging like deadly raindrops, before Alexander sent them spinning harmlessly into the walls. "Impossible!" Rebecca snarled, her own power flaring as she fought to maintain control. The suppression was permanent. Lily grabbed Alexander's hand, and the moment their skin touched, both abilities amplified exponentially. Alexander found himself not just floating, but flying through the air, while Lily's healing light blazed bright enough to turn night into day. "Together," Lily whispered, her violet eyes meeting his. "We're stronger together. I can feel it," Alexander breathed, marveling at the sensation of Lily's consciousness touching his. "Your memories, your pain, your hope, it's all connected to mine." Through their bond, Alexander experienced Lily's life in flashes. Her mother's death, the loneliness of the orphanage, the terror of being hunted, but also her incredible courage, her determination to use her gift for good, her absolute faith that somehow everything would work out. "How touching," Rebecca spat, raising her hands to channel stolen power. "But love won't save you from this." She unleashed a blast of black energy that should have torn them to pieces. Instead, it hit the combined shield of Alexander's telekinesis and Lily's healing light, dissipating harmlessly. "You don't understand," said Lily, her voice carrying wisdom far beyond her years. "You've spent so much time stealing power from others that you've forgotten the most important truth about gifts like ours. That they aren't meant to be stolen," said Alexander, understanding flowing through him. "They're meant to be shared." Rebecca's confident expression faltered. "Impossible. Shared power is weakened power. For someone like you, perhaps," Lily answered. "But we aren't like you." Alexander felt Lily's healing ability flowing through him, not just fixing his spine, but teaching him how to use his telekinesis to heal others. At the same time, his power was showing Lily how to extend her gifts beyond physical healing, how to touch minds, how to mend broken spirits. "Marcus," Alexander called out, seeing his head of security trapped under debris from the helicopter crash. "Are you injured?" "Broken ribs, sir. Maybe worse." Alexander reached out with their combined abilities, lifting the debris with his mind while channeling Lily's healing through his telekinesis. Marcus gasped as his wounds vanished, his eyes wide with wonder. "How did you do that?" "We're learning," Alexander said, turning back to Rebecca. "And that terrifies you, doesn't it? Because you can only steal complete gifts. You can't take what we're becoming." Rebecca's face contorted with rage. "Then I'll destroy you both before you can reach your full potential." She raised her hands for another attack, but this time Alexander was ready. He wrapped her in a telekinetic embrace that was gentle but unbreakable. "Lily," he said quietly, "can you heal someone who's chosen to give up their humanity?" Lily studied her aunt with eyes full of compassion instead of fear. "I don't know, but maybe we should try." "Don't you dare!" Rebecca hissed, struggling against Alexander's invisible bonds. "I chose this path willingly. I embraced the darkness because the light was too weak to protect the people I loved." "Who did you lose?" Lily asked softly. For a moment, Rebecca's mask of cruelty slipped, revealing desperation and grief beneath. My daughter, my beautiful Sarah. She had the gift too, but she was so young, so vulnerable. The previous collectors found her before I could hide her properly. Sister Mary Peterson's face paled. Alexander felt Lily's shock through their bond. You had a daughter. She was your age when they took her. 7 years with your exact eyes, your same stubborn courage. Tears streamed down Rebecca's face. I made a deal to get her back, but by the time I had enough power, it was too late. They had already turned her into one of their weapons. Where is she now? Lily whispered. Rebecca's laughter was broken, empty, dead. I had to stop her myself. She begged me at the end. Lily moved away from Alexander and slowly walked toward her aunt. You're not evil, you're just hurt. No, Rebecca warned, but her voice lacked the previous venom. I've done terrible things, Lily. Unforgivable things. You have, Lily said, extending her small hand. But that doesn't mean you can't choose differently now. Rebecca looked at Lily's outstretched hand with longing and terror warring in her violet eyes. What are you offering? A chance to honor Sarah's memory by helping us save other children like her, Lily said simply. A chance to choose love instead of power. Rebecca stared at Lily's hand for a long moment, then slowly began to reach toward it. But just as their fingers were about to touch, one of her operatives raised his weapon with mechanical precision. Target acquired, he said in David Johnson's empty voice. Eliminating primary asset. The shot echoed through the warehouse like thunder. Time slowed as Alexander watched the bullet heading toward Lily. His telekinesis reached out desperately, but he was too far away. The angle was wrong. The shot caught Rebecca in the chest. She had thrown herself in front of Lily at the last second, her face transformed by a mother's love as the bullet meant for her niece found her heart. No! Lily screamed, falling to her knees beside her aunt as Rebecca collapsed onto the concrete floor. Aunt Rebecca, hold on, I can heal you. But Rebecca caught Lily's wrist with a hand slippery with blood, her violet eyes already darkening. Not this time, little star. This is my choice. Why? Lily sobbed, her healing light flickering desperately over Rebecca's wound. Why did you save me? Because, Rebecca whispered, I finally remembered what Sarah would have wanted me to do. She turned her fading gaze to Alexander. Protect her, both of you. Protect each other. Rebecca's hand went limp, and the stolen light in her eyes winked out forever. Lily's anguished cry shattered every remaining piece of glass in the complex, but Alexander barely heard it over the revelation thundering through his mind. Because the moment Rebecca died, her suppression of his childhood memories died with her, and Alexander Morgan remembered everything. Lily, he said, his voice trembling with the weight of impossible truth. Lily, I need to tell you something. But Lily wasn't listening. She was pouring all her power into Rebecca's lifeless body, desperately trying to bring back someone who had chosen to let go. She's gone, Alexander said gently, moving his wheelchair close enough to touch Lily's shoulder. And there's a reason for that. I don't understand, Lily cried. I could have saved her. Why didn't she let me? Because she knew what I just remembered, Alexander said, his voice heavy with 20 years of grief. Lily, what was your mother's name? Anna Johnson. Why? Alexander's eyes filled with tears as the final piece of the puzzle fell into place. Lily, I knew your mother. Lily looked at him, her violet eyes wide with confusion. That's impossible. 20 years ago, when I was 6 years old, my telekinetic abilities manifested during a family vacation in downtown Chicago. I accidentally destroyed half a city block trying to save a cat from a burning building. Lily's breathing quickened as Alexander continued. A young woman found me in the rubble, crying and frightened. She had the most beautiful violet eyes I'd ever seen, and when she touched my forehead, all the fear went away. She held me until my adoptive parents found me. No, Lily whispered, but Alexander could see recognition dawning in her eyes. She told me her name was Anna, and that someday someone very special would need my help. Someone with the same violet eyes, the same brave heart, the same gift for healing broken things. Alexander reached out and took Lily's small hands in his. She made me promise that when that day came, I would be ready, that I would be strong enough to protect the person she loved most in the world. Lily's tears fell like rain. That's why you seemed familiar from the first moment I saw you. Your mother didn't just heal my physical wounds that day, Lily. She planted a connection between us that would activate when you needed it most. She knew Rebecca would eventually come after you, and she wanted to make sure you didn't face her alone. So everything that happened, my accident, our meeting, was your mother's gift to you, Alexander finished. She spent her life preparing for this moment, making sure that when the time came, you would have someone who understood your power, someone who could help you grow strong enough to face whatever darkness came hunting. Lily threw her arms around Alexander's neck, sobbing with a mixture of grief and gratitude. She never stopped protecting me, even after she was gone. And neither will I, Alexander promised, holding her tight as their combined light began to heal not just his spine, but the deep wounds in both their souls. Outside, police sirens wailed in the distance, drawn by the destruction and gunfire. But Alexander wasn't worried. For the first time in his life, he understood his true purpose. He wasn't just a billionaire or a man in a wheelchair or someone with mysterious abilities. He was Lily's guardian, chosen by her mother 20 years ago to stand between this brave little girl and a world that would exploit her gift. But as Lily's healing light flowed through him more powerfully than ever, Alexander realized something that changed everything once more. The connection Anna had created between them hadn't been just about protection, it had been about transformation. And what they were becoming together would either save the world or reshape it forever. Lily, he said softly, feeling new abilities awakening in his mind, I think we need to have a very serious talk about what happens next. 1 month later, Alexander was really standing, on the balcony of his penthouse, watching the sunrise paint New York City in shades of gold and amber. His legs felt strong beneath him, his spine perfectly aligned, every nerve singing with health that Lily had restored. But the physical healing was nothing compared to the other changes. You're up early, said Lily, walking onto the balcony in fluffy slippers, carrying 2 mugs of hot chocolate. She looked different now. Not just because Sister Mary had finally found proper clothes and a real bed for her, but because the constant fear had left her violet eyes. I couldn't sleep, Alexander admitted, taking his mug with gratitude. The dreams are getting stronger. Mine too, said Lily, settling into the chair next to him. I saw 3 more children last night, 1 in Tokyo, 1 in Mumbai, 1 in Chicago, all developing gifts, all in danger. During the past month, as their bond had deepened, they had both begun to experience prophetic dreams, visions of other gifted children around the world who would soon need protection from people like Rebecca's former organization. The authorities are still investigating the incident at the warehouse, said Alexander. Marcus managed to clean up most of the evidence, but questions are being asked. Are you worried they'll discover what really happened? Alexander smiled, remembering the official report that blamed the destruction on a gas leak explosion. Let them wonder. We have bigger concerns. He pulled up a tablet showing surveillance footage from around the globe. Children moving objects with their minds in Beijing, healing injured animals in Chicago, seeing the future in dreams in Cairo. 17 confirmed cases in the last month, said Alexander, and those are just the ones careless enough to get caught on camera. Lily studied the images with the serious expression she wore when thinking about adult responsibilities. They're going to need training, protection, someone who understands what they're going through. Is that what you want to do? Alexander asked gently. Spend your life hunting scared children and trying to keep them safe from organizations like the Collectors. Lily was quiet for a long moment, sipping her hot chocolate and watching the city wake up below them. What kind of life would that be for a girl like me? I don't know, Alexander answered honestly. Hard, dangerous. You'd have to grow up fast, probably faster than anyone should. But the alternative is leaving them to face this alone, like I almost had to. You know I'll support whatever choice you make, but Lily, There's something else we need to discuss. The government offers. Alexander nodded grimly. In the weeks following Rebecca's death, 3 different federal agencies had made contact with veiled offers to consult on matters of national security. They had been polite, respectful, but the message was clear. Work with us, or perhaps we'll have to consider you a threat. They want to use us the same way the collectors did, said Lily matter-of-factly, just with better paperwork and prettier words. Probably. The question is whether we're strong enough now to refuse them. Lily put her mug aside and took Alexander's hand, their combined power humming just below the surface. With great power comes great responsibility, right? Where did you hear that? Spider-Man comics. Sister Mary has quite the collection. Lily smiled, but then her expression turned serious again. Alexander, when I heal someone now, I can see into the person's soul. I can tell if they're good people or if they're just pretending. And what do you see when you look at me? I see someone who spent 3 years thinking his life was over and now wants to use his second chance to make sure other children don't have to go through what I went through. Lily squeezed his hand. I see someone who would rather fight the entire world than let it hurt the people he cares about. Alexander felt tears prick his eyes. Is that enough to take on the responsibility of protecting every gifted child on the planet? I don't know, Lily admitted, but I know what Mom would say. What's that? She would say that the gift isn't about what we can do. It's about what we choose to do. Alexander stood from his chair, marveling again at the simple joy of movement, and walked to the balcony railing. Below them, the city stretched in all directions. Millions of people living their lives, most never knowing how close they had come to a war between those with power and those without. If we do this, he said slowly, if we really commit to finding and protecting these children, there's no going back. We'll be targets for the rest of our lives. Every government, every organization that wants to weaponize supernatural abilities will come after us, eventually. But we'll face it together, said Lily, joining him at the railing, and we won't be alone. Each child we save, each gift we help someone safely control, they'll be part of our family too. Alexander looked at this amazing 7-year-old girl who had taught him that miracles were real, that hope could survive anything, and that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe was simply choosing to care about someone beyond yourself. Are you sure this is what you want? He asked one last time. Lily's violet eyes blazed with determination that belonged to someone far older and infinitely wiser. I've been sure since the day I met you. Alexander's phone vibrated with an encrypted message from Marcus. Sir, we have a situation. 12-year-old boy in Boston. Telekinetic episode at a school. Local authorities confused, parents terrified. How do you want to proceed? Alexander showed the message to Lily. She read it, then looked up at him with a smile that could have powered half the city. Looks like we have our first official case, she said. Looks like we do. But as Alexander began making arrangements for their trip to Boston, he couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching them. Not with hostile intent, he had learned to recognize that feeling, but with the patient attention of someone waiting to see what choice they would ultimately make. 3,000 miles away, in a government facility that didn't officially exist, a woman in a dark suit closed the file labeled Morgan Alexander Johnson Lily and reached for her secure phone. Doctor, her aide asked. Tell the director that the assets have made their decision, she said, her voice carrying the weight of decisions that would reshape the world. And activate Project Guardian. It's time to see if their gift for healing extends to healing the damage we've done to others like them. The true test of Alexander and Lily was just beginning, and this time the fate of every gifted child on Earth hung in the balance. The federal building in Washington, D.C. looked innocent from the outside, but Alexander's enhanced senses detected electromagnetic shielding and abnormal energy grids. This wasn't a routine incident. It was a trap. I can feel 20 gifted children inside, said Lily, her violet eyes scanning the building. They're scared, Alexander. Project Guardian, Marcus confirmed through his earpiece. They've been collecting gifted children for months. Alexander felt anger rising like molten steel. They're building an army. A familiar voice crackled through his helicopter's speakers. Because they no longer consider you a threat, but an asset to be acquired. The image of Director Sarah Mitchell appeared on the monitor, her cold smile radiating threat. Hello, Alexander. Lily, we've been expecting you. Release the children, Alexander demanded, his power making the helicopter's frame groan. Tell me, have you considered the consequences when you healed Alexander? What two people with your abilities could do to the global balance of power? We're not interested in power, Lily answered firmly. No? Then why are you here instead of letting us handle gifted children through proper channels? Because you're exploiting them, Alexander growled. Director Mitchell laughed. As are you. You've convinced a 7-year-old child to hunt dangerous individuals. How is that different? Lily placed her hand on Alexander's arm. Because we give choice. You don't. Let me show you what choice looks like. The windows of the building lit up, revealing dozens of children in sterile white rooms. They appeared healthy, but their eyes had the same emptiness Alexander had seen in David Johnson. Each child volunteered, Director Mitchell continued. We offer purpose, training, the chance to serve their country. By lobotomizing them, Alexander shouted. By giving them peace. No more nightmares about hurting family. No more fear of losing control. Her voice turned threatening. Join us willingly, and you keep your personalities. Refuse, and I activate these 23 children to retrieve you. Through the windows, Alexander watched the children rise in unison, their movements mechanical. Some began to glow with energy, others floating, manipulating matter itself. You're monstrous, Lily whispered. I'm practical. Supernatural abilities will be militarized by us, foreign governments, or irresponsible individuals like yourselves. Alexander felt Lily's power flowing through their connection, suddenly sensing the mind of each child in that building. They weren't lobotomized. They were trapped, conscious but unable to control their actions, silently screaming. Lily, he said quietly, how much power do we have together? I don't know. We've never tested our limits. Alexander took Lily's hand as the first controlled children flew toward the helicopter. I think we're about to find out. Their combined abilities exploded outward like a nuclear bomb of compassion, not destructively, but with pure healing intent that swept through the building like a tidal wave of violet light. Everything went silent. Then from each floor, children began to scream, not in pain but in release, as their minds were freed from artificial control. Impossible. Director Mitchell's voice cracked. The neural implants cannot be overridden. They can when powered by love instead of fear, said Lily, her body blazing with violet fire. Alexander's consciousness expanded, touching each freed child, showing them they had allies, that someone understood their struggles and would protect their right to choose. The children began to help each other. Telekinetics lifting those who couldn't fly, healers mending psychological damage, precognitive children guiding escape routes. We have facilities in 12 countries, Director Mitchell snarled. You can't save them all. Maybe not, said Alexander, feeling Lily's faith flowing through him. But we can try. Each child we save will help save the next. You are foolish idealists who will doom the world. No, said Lily with ancient wisdom. We're giving the world a chance to choose love over fear. As the last children escaped, flying, teleporting, walking with heads held high, Alexander realized their true mission was just beginning. They weren't just guardians. They were the beginning of something new, a network choosing to heal rather than harm, to protect rather than exploit, to lift each other up rather than tear down. Where to now? Lily asked as they pulled away from the smoking building. Alexander smiled, feeling more alive than ever. Wherever we're needed. That could be anywhere. Then we'd better get started. Below them, 23 formerly enslaved children were discovering freedom. Some reunited with families they'd been told were dead. Others stayed together, forming protective families. All carried hope, ignited by two people who refused to believe that power and compassion couldn't coexist. As the sunset painted the sky, Alexander Morgan, former billionaire, former invalid, current guardian, took the hand of Lily Johnson, former orphan, current beacon of hope. And together, they flew toward a future where miracles weren't just possible. They were inevitable, because the greatest gift isn't healing bodies or moving mountains. It's the courage to care about someone more than yourself, and that gift multiplies every time you share it. This story teaches us that true miracles happen when we choose love over fear, hope over despair. Alexander and Lily show us that age doesn't define wisdom, that physical limitations don't determine a person's worth, and that sometimes the most powerful connections are those that transcend time and space. Because in the end, we all have a bit of Alexander and Lily inside us. The capacity to heal, protect, and choose to make a difference in the world, one person at a time. The end